Regular meeting of the Texarkana, Arkansas Board of Directors to order. Actually, it's a rescheduled meeting due to the holiday. At this time, we'll have a roll call.
Director Roberts.
Here.
Assistant Mayor Harris.
Here.
Director Hollibush.
Here.
Director Brewer is absent. Director Jewell.
Here.
Director Smith.
Here.
Mayor Brown.
Here. At this time, we'll stand for the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance. Our Pledge of Allegiance will be given by our Chief Information Officer, Mr. Brandon Nelson. Please pray with me. Dear God, thank you for this day and all the blessings that you've given us, and thank you for all of our public servants here, all of our city employees, and our citizens that are here tonight, and be with us as we guide and direct the city's business. For it's in Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated. At this time, we'll move right on into our citizens' communication time. Is there anyone here that wishes to address the board tonight? I have 3 copies just handed to me. I'll take them in the order. Ms. Thornton? Ms. Thornton? Oh. Yes, ma'am. I'll just take them in the order she just gave them to me. You'll be first. You can speak then, or you can speak now.
Okay.
It's up to you. The item that I'm assuming you're addressing is the last item on our agenda, and that is an ordinance. So prior to that ordinance being adopted, if it's read 3 times tonight, there will be a chance for citizens to comment.
Okay.
But it'd have to be read 3 times tonight to get there. You follow what I'm, you understand? So we have that
You've
ordinance.
had one reading?
No, that
No.
was tabled. This is a new ordinance.
Okay.
So it would have to be read 3 times tonight and adopted
tonight.
to pass.
Okay, all right.
So if it doesn't get read 3 times, there won't be an opportunity at that time for citizens to address.
Okay, well, I will speak now,
Okay?
if I may.
Yes, ma'am.
Good afternoon to all of you board members. I just want to say that I do respect the fact that you have been elected by your peers to represent the city and to make necessary or important changes when it comes to the city. And I'm here tonight to again express my disapproval of rezoning an area on Laurel Street. Now, I see that that gentleman has already prepared to do some work there, so evidently he has received some type of consent or approval to go ahead that would be done. So in reference to that, I'd like to ask you as board members, how does mixing zones in an area affect an area? Is that clear? You know, you have zoned this as a residential area. So when you start mixing the zones, I do believe that that is the time then for citizens to either to come forth with questions about, okay, what happens then? Because as you well know, as well as I, that when you change one zone, when you change the zone from what it was intended to originally to allow for another zone, what happens after that?
The same thing, in my opinion, the same thing that happens now, and that is it can always have an opportunity to be rezoned at a later date. I mean, that's one of the reasons that we have the Planning Commission in place with the city is we take the Planning and Zoning Commission and the city planner to either accept or to recommend staff approval or not approval of those particular zones based on the number one thing, and that's the city's overall comprehensive plan. And a lot of these zoning requests you see, in my opinion, or I'm strictly speaking for myself, Ms. Thorne,
Sure,
in
I
my
understand.
opinion, that they come based on a person's use of that property could possibly change. And there are all kinds of ways to vet that process through the city, and it starts with the Planning Commission.
Okay, and I understand that that was presented to the Planning Commission, and they approved it. So, the little area that we're talking about, as I said, was originally zoned residential, and I know there's not much going on there at this present time, and it seems like it would be an ample opportunity for someone to come in and put in a business. And I know the city is interested in encouraging citizens to start business, but I understand also that you understand to a residential area that is potential for resident housings to be built, that having a business, a commercial business to be established there may be an interruption or a change of what goes on in that area. So I'm just here tonight to express my opinion again about not having that area rezoned, but to leave it as it was previously zoned, and that is residential. And if I were the individuals, which I didn't speak with, the individuals across the street, that business is going to be right across from the street where there are residents living. So what is that presenting to them? What kind of changes in reference to the noise that they will hear from that business? It's my concern also. Okay, thank you.
I understand, thank you. Ms. Barcy?
Will I have an opportunity to speak again after the Planning Commission present this? Number 8?
Are you asking me?
Yes.
Will you have another opportunity?
Yes.
You will, as long as the board agrees to have that ordinance read 3 times tonight. It is an ordinance, so it requires 3 readings. So if we don't get to that portion of that on the agenda tonight, there will not be an opportunity for any other input. The input comes after the ordinance has been read 3 times and there's a motion to adopt.
Okay, thank you. Good evening to the mayor and members of this council. My name is Brenda Bursey. I am here to express my opposition to this change of zoning by Mr. Duffer. I have not had an opportunity to meet him. He has not deemed it necessary to make an appearance in the last 3 city meetings we've had. He's had a representative here on his behalf. Well, I come to you today to be a representative for 817 Laurel, 818 Laurel, 823 Laurel, 831 Laurel, and 820 Laurel. And for those individuals in rental property who don't have a say in their situation. I'm here for the marginalized community and the residential neighborhood. Let me make this statement before I proceed. I want to say to Director Hollybush, as I reflected on the comments from the last meeting, I feel that when you stated that the person on the corner lot had the most stake at the communication of how they felt about this zoning, it let me know that you was inconsiderate of me being present, making my voice known, like it was
Ms.
irrelevant.
Barcy, let me interrupt you. You cannot refrain from contacting a director by name.
Thank you.
All right.
I'm sorry.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry, I did not know. I'm sorry. Sometimes people do not voice their opinion because of fear of speaking truth to power and the repercussions that follow. I can attest to that fact because this week I received a notice of demolition on my property, which means to me there was a message of intimidation and retaliation. In other words, for me to sit down and be quiet. Mr. Duffer, in the meantime, has purchased this Ian property that someone mentioned. I guess thinking it would clear one of the roadblocks to getting the zoning changed. I am perplexed as why this was coming back to us so soon and realized that the planning department had pulled a rabbit out of the hat. They pulled a PUD out of the zoning hat. Mr. Mayor, could someone please explain to me and the citizens of Texarkana what is a zoning PUD?
You would like for me to answer that?
Yes, sir.
for you? Basically, it's a planned use development, and so it's my understanding, one of the problems that arose at the last time is he was asking for that zone to be rezoned C3. And one of the complaints is that in C3, he could do pretty much anything that was allowed within that particular zone of C3. In a planned use development, once he submits that plan for that particular property and it's approved, he cannot change it. He cannot do anything with that piece of property that's not set out in that planned use development approval, providing it's approved tonight. He can only do what was submitted to the Planning Commission through the Planning Department, period. He would never be able to go back and change that.
All right, thank you. We know governmental entities have used eminent domain to acquire properties for highways and railways from marginalized community. And it appears the city planning department is taking a PUD to place a garage car lot in a residential neighborhood. Whether it's a C1 open display or a PUD, a garage car lot is still a garage car lot. And it's in a residential area. As I would like to think that the planning department was represented on the city's comprehensive plan, but by them recommending this zoning indicates they don't have the same vision that the city has. Let me restate, this area is downtown core, it's a downtown gateway, per the comprehensive plan 2040, which states that changes would be compatible and complementary to the city and the neighborhood. This planned vision is the city's for the future of Texarkana, and if we begin to alter the plan, it would not be worth the paper it's written on. We will set a precedent by saying that citizens can come forward and change to whatever they want to as long as they're in agreement with the city to pull a PUD. Gentrification is what this change request in zoning is implementing. The neighborhood demographics will change, and we need to protect the people who are forced to accept the changes to benefit the individuals and not the community. This is still spot zoning. Spot zoning is rezoning is usually at odds with the city master plan and current zoning restrictions, still the same. In this PUD, section 2824C, there was a procedure. Was there a pre-application plan done? The city planner was to meet and have a joint meeting with a pre-application conference. I would like the minutes from that. The zoning application and preliminary plat was to be submitted, and there was 10 requirements for that. I would like the minutes showing that those all were met. PUD is not intended for a catch-all for zoning request. On October the 7th, 2024, it was passed and approved by this council that there was a 2-acre requirement to have a PUD. October the 7th, 2024, a 2-acre minimum requirement for a PUD. This rezoning fails on many ordinances and procedures. I am requesting that this board vote to deny this request for rezoning to show support for the comprehensive plan. The downtown core, the downtown gateway, the neighborhood would like to work with the city to revitalize this area. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
You said the neighborhood would like to work with the city to revitalize the area.
Yes,
Can you expand on that?
yes.
Your plans.
I've talked to four of the people who own property are planning on rebuilding, tearing what is necessary, tearing down or either rehabbing parcels there.
You're talking about 4 residential property owners?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, are talking about either putting new housing up or rental properties. Thank you. Any other questions?
I got a question about the 2-acre requirement, is that correct?
It is located ordinance number K 286.
Any other comments or questions from Ms. Bursey? Thank you. Mr. Ray Bursey? You're good? All right. Anyone else wish to address the board tonight in citizens' communication time? Anyone else? If not, we'll move into our consent agenda. Tonight, we have 4 items on our consent agenda. The first item is approval of the minutes of our regular meeting, January the 6th. Item number 2 is to adopt a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with Contact Contractors for the complete renovation of the Texarkana, Arkansas District Courtroom. Item number 3 is adopt a resolution authorizing the city manager to purchase a 2025 Ford F-250 SD from the Government Buy Board Smart Ford Malvern, and adopt a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into a purchase agreement with Artrek Truck Center for a dump truck. What is the desire of the board for the consent agenda?
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to adopt the consent agenda. Any other questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries.
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
can I say one thing?
Yes?
Just want to say, Larry, you made Tyler, you made an excellent decision bringing Larry back as the building manager at Bi-State. We're glad to have you back. You've done a fantastic job in the past, and I know you'll keep doing it. And I just want to thank you.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Doing the job for Mr. Travis Frost, we wouldn't be here today. He took over when Christine has left and did a fantastic job, and I'd like to give some approval for him.
Absolutely.
He did a great job, and I'm glad to have him on board as assistant building manager. I've never had one before. This is new ground for me, so I'm enjoying the time to spend with him and showing him what I've learned at the Bi-State for my past 30 years there.
Absolutely.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Moving right along to our regular agenda, item number 5 is to adopt a resolution confirming the appointment of Sheena Washington to our vacant position of Director of Finance. Tyler?
Thank you, Mayor. We received roughly 12 applicants for the Finance Director position. Most of those did not qualify. They either didn't have the necessary degrees or the necessary experience. We had a couple of in-house applicants and a couple of former employees. After all of our interviews, Sheena Washington, I have complete confidence in her. She was our former controller, I believe, back around 2020 under Tyronda. She was with us for a couple of years. After that, she went to the city of Carrollton. She's been the controller there since. She's hometown Texarkana, and she wants to bring her family back to Texarkana. So I believe that she's going to be a great asset to us, and I hope that y'all will confirm my appointment of her.
Any questions for Tyler? If not, we'd instruct the city attorney to read the resolution.
Whereas the city manager requests board confirmation of his appointment of Sheena Washington to the vacant position of finance director, and whereas the city manager recommends board approval, now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Directors of the City of Texarkana, Arkansas, that the appointment of Sheena Washington to the vacant position of finance director is confirmed. Pass and approve this 21st day of January 2025.
The city attorney's read the resolution. What would be the desire of the board?
Motion. Second.
So have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Could you call the roll?
Roberts,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Hollabush,
Yes.
Jewell,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes, the resolution passes.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Item number 6 is to adopt an ordinance authorizing the city manager to purchase a 3-year Microsoft Enterprise license agreement for the licenses used by all divisions of the Texarkana Water Utilities. Brandon Usleton.
Mayor, members of the board, this is a renewal process that we do every 3 years. This includes the licensure for all desktop computers, laptop computers, email systems, Microsoft cloud-based systems, as well as server licensing systems and database licensing systems used by the Texarkana Water Utilities. There was only an increase of about $3,000 annually from the previous enterprise agreement. What this agreement does is it locks the price in for 3 years. We've been using enterprise agreements for north of 20 years. It's pretty straightforward. We've got $60,000 in the Texarkana Water Utilities Technology Fund for this particular cost, and the cost came in at $53,000, so we are under budget. Are there any questions?
Anybody have any questions for Brandon? If not, I would instruct the city attorney to read the ordinance on its first reading in title form.
An ordinance authorizing the city manager to purchase a 3-year Microsoft Enterprise license agreement for use by Texarkana Water Utilities for declaring an emergency and for other purposes.
The city attorney's read the ordinance on its first reading. What would be the desire to have it read on its second reading tonight?
Second reading, abbreviated form.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second to have the ordinance read on its second reading. Any other discussion? Could you call the roll?
Roberts.
Yes.
Harris.
Yes.
Hollowbush.
Yes.
Jewell.
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
An ordinance authorizing the city manager to purchase a 3-year Microsoft Enterprise license agreement for use by Texarkana Water Utilities for declaring an emergency and for other purposes.
Ordinance has been read on its second reading. What would be the desire to have it read on its third and final reading?
Third.
reading, abbreviated form.
Second.
Have a motion and a second for third reading. Any other discussion? Could you call the roll?
Roberts.
Yes.
Harris.
Yes.
Hollowbush.
Yes.
Jewell.
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
An ordinance authorizing the city manager to purchase a 3-year Microsoft Enterprise license agreement for use by Texarkana Water Utilities for declaring an emergency and for other purposes.
So ordinance has been read on its third reading tonight. What would be the desire of the board to adopt?
Motion to adopt.
Second.
So have a motion and a second to adopt. Prior to the board voting to adopt this particular ordinance, is there anyone here wishing to speak for or against? Seeing and hearing none, could you call the roll?
Roberts.
Yes.
Harris.
Yes.
Hollowbush.
Yes.
Jewell.
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
Brown.
Yes. And the ordinance is adopted. The Water Department has asked for an emergency clause. Desire for the emergency clause.
Motion to attach emergency clause.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Could you call the roll?
Roberts.
Yes.
Harris.
Yes.
Hollowbush.
Yes.
Jewell.
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
Brown.
Yes, an emergency clause is attached. Moving right on to number 7, adopt an ordinance authorizing the city manager to purchase an assessment of the Texarkana Water Utilities Industrial Control System and Operational Technology. Brandon.
Mayor and Board, the IT department has a cybersecurity audit that is done annually. We have had since 2021. And one of the findings in our most recent audit was to have a third party come and do an assessment of all of the SCADA infrastructure used by the water utilities. And what SCADA is the technology backbone that operates the industrial control systems for water production and sewer treatment. The reason the security audit recommended a third party is because some of our infrastructure, SCADA infrastructure is fairly old. And it has been slowly growing and morphing over 40 years. The intention of this third party to come in, they'll have boots on the ground that will put eyes on and inspect all of our industrial control systems, and then build us a strategic plan that to modernize and better secure our industrial control systems, as well as centralize it, because we have multiple systems for multiple parts of water production and sewer treatment. It is a project that is budgeted within the Texarkana Water Utilities Technology Fund. We received a quote from a consultant that does this type of work under a state contract through the state of Texas, and it came in $8,000 under budget. Are there any questions?
What's the impact or fallout if you don't do it?
It could be minimal or it could be catastrophic.
I'm just trying to better understand it is all.
So currently, we have two primary systems for SCADA, water production and sewer treatment. Sewer treatment is in the process. They've finished up a deployment of a cloud-based system with a company out of Little Rock. And when I say company out of Little Rock, it's two guys that work out of the garage who are fairly well-known in the southern part of the United States for working on SCADA systems. They're reputable. They have a very small business. Water production has quite a bit, some of its infrastructure is quite a bit older. And it's going to require quite a bit more work to modernize it. Some of the SCADA infrastructure up until last year, we're still using radio technology circa 1980s. It needs some TLC. It needs quite a bit of TLC. This has been something that the IT department has been working on and trying to remedy for several years. And the stars aligned so that we were able to secure funding for this project. So it's kind of a vague answer, but it's
No, it gives clarity.
okay.
Any other questions?
Yes, sir. Brandon, does this follow anything up like with cybersecurity? I mean, is this to upgrade it to? with-
Yes. This, the strategic plan, when we reached out to the vendor that was on the state contract, we specifically said our goals are to modernize, centralize, and secure. And we've provided further instructions saying that you need to, as you do this through the lens of the recommendations from CISA, which is the Critical Infrastructure Security Agency. It's a security an agency of the federal government that's responsible for infrastructure cybersecurity. They have provided guidance and standards for industrial control systems and for their cybersecurity.
Gotcha. So this would enhance our ability to keep hackers away from hacking into our water system?
Yes.
Gotcha.
You may have read, seen in the news last year, there was a threat actor that managed to gain access to a SCADA system for a water utility, I think it was in Georgia, and had the operator not noticed the mouse moving on the computer, the threat actor was getting ready to like quintuple the amount of chlorine going into the water supply. Thankfully, the operator prevented that. And our system is so old that our SCADA system is only used for monitoring currently. It can't make changes, significant changes. You can use it to empty a water tank, but that's not as significant as doubling or tripling the amount of chlorine in your water supply.
Absolutely.
So,
I see the benefit. You keep saying that our system is so outdated and so old. Upon implementation, how long does it take for it? Is it pretty immediate? Is it gonna, like, how long?
It's not immediate. This is the strategic plan. This is someone coming in and looking at everything, all of our infrastructure, and then building us a roadmap, kind of like the city's comprehensive plan, except for our industrial control systems. We're anticipating it take 3 to 5 years to get it implemented, depending on funding within the water utilities budget.
I'm not an IT guy. I still read off paper. But 5 years from now, when it's fully implemented, how far behind are we going to be the newest up-to-date thing at that point?
Well, technology moves faster than
Daily.
most anybody can keep up with, and government technology moves a little slower than that. However, industrial control systems, SCADA systems, move slower. Part of the guidance we gave to the consultant, part of the deliverable for the project is not just the 5-year plan, but a plan or included within the 5-year plan is recommendations on how to maintain the system up to current standards. The utility has never had something like this done with our control systems. It has always been keep it up, keep it running as best we can. We haven't had any major problems. This would be pretty groundbreaking for the utility. It's something that my department is the main sponsor, but the director of the water utility and I have been working closely together, trying to get all of our ducks in a row, so to speak.
Does it improve the quality of water at all, or does it just make you feel warm and fuzzy that nobody's?
I can't speak to that as I don't have a lot of experience with water.
I just only asked
specifically?
because you talked about the chemical levels and everything.
So that was, yeah, I can't speak to that. I
Okay.
don't, that is outside of my wheelhouse.
I'm good.
Any other questions for Brandon? If not, I would instruct the city attorney to read the ordinance on its first reading in title form.
An ordinance authorizing the city manager to purchase an assessment of the Texarkana Water Utilities Industrial Control Systems and Operational Technology for declaring an emergency and for other purposes.
Ordinance has been read on its first reading. What would be the desire to have it read on its second reading tonight?
Second reading.
Have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Could you call the roll?
Roberts.
Yes.
Harris.
Yes.
Hollenbush.
Yes.
Jewell.
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
An ordinance authorizing the city manager to purchase an assessment of the Texarkana Water Utilities Industrial Control Systems and Operational Technology for declaring an emergency and for other purposes.
Ordinance has been read on its second reading. What would be the desire to have it read on its third and final reading tonight?
Third reading, abbreviated form.
Second.
Let's have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Could you call the roll?
Roberts.
Yes.
Harris.
Yes.
Hollenbush.
Yes.
Jewell.
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
An ordinance authorizing the city manager to purchase an assessment of the Texarkana Water Utilities Industrial Control Systems and Operational Technology for declaring an emergency and for other purposes.
Ordinance has been read on its third and final reading. What would be the desire to adopt?
Motion to adopt.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt. Prior to the board voting to adopt this particular ordinance, is there anyone here wishing to speak for or against? Seeing and hearing none, could you call the roll?
Roberts.
Yes.
Harris.
Yes.
Hollenbush.
Yes.
Jewell.
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
Brown.
Yes. And the ordinance is adopted. The water company has asked for an emergency clause. What would be the desire?
Motion to approve emergency clause.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to attach an emergency clause. Any other discussion? Could you call the roll?
Roberts.
Yes.
Harris.
Yes.
Hollenbush.
Yes.
Jewell.
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
Brown.
Yes. And the emergency clause is attached. Moving to our last item on the regular agenda tonight is number 8, is to adopt an ordinance to rezone the property located at 803, 805, 807, 815 Laurel from R4 medium density residential to planned unit development for the purpose of operating an automotive shop.
Thank you.
So this came before the board in December as a rezoning, and one of the concerns at the time was that if we rezoned it to C3, anything that's allowed in C3 could go in there. And C3 is our most liberal commercial zone. So there are a lot of things in there that could go in there. They did come back to us and ask to do a PUD, which means they can only do exactly what they tell us they're going to do. They can't go in there later and put in a liquor store, or put in a convenience store, or put in a salvage yard. They have to do exactly what they tell us to do by their site plan. Since the last meeting, Mr. Duffer has also purchased this lot here. So this is actually 3 lots, and he has these 2, so there are now 5 lots here. And he also owns the property located right here. This would be a companion business to his business over here. This is a new business. He's not relocating a business from somewhere else. The property is currently zoned R4. It abuts to C3 over here. This is Hazel Street, and of course, this is State Line right here. And this is 8th Street, or Martin Luther King Boulevard. There is water and sewer available. This is the property off of Act Data Scout. He has begun some dirt work. He does not have to have permission from us or a permit to do dirt work. So, this is his site plan, or this is what he gave us for the rezoning, he has to come back and get an approved site plan from Planning Commission. But the building would front onto 8th Street. There would be parking in front, and the building here, it would be entirely fenced in. This is Laurel. So there would be 3 lots here that would not have a building on them, that would remain empty. This is his building plan. This is the front and rear, and then there would be 4 bay doors on each side.
That was my question.
Yes. And his representative, Mr. Travis, is here. And to the answer of the 2-acre requirement, in our ordinance in section 2824B2, it states that the requirement for a PUD is a quarter of an acre.
It was changed from 2 acres to a quarter of an acre in 2004 with ordinance L180. It does appear that 2 acres is still stated there when you look at the ordinances online. Well, it's stated as a minimum area of 1/4 acre in one spot, and then a minimum of 2 acres further down. It looks like that just wasn't updated when we reduced it from 2 acres to a quarter of an acre. So we'll have to get.
What year was that done? 04?
2004? Yes, sir.
Does anybody have anything else, Jim?
And what I've given you concerns the comprehensive plan. This is actually not designated as downtown core, it's designated as downtown neighborhood in the comprehensive plan. It is also part of what we call the downtown gateway focus area. Both of these areas do have an allowance for some commercial development in it.
When you say an allowance, is it designated percentage breakout?
No.
Okay.
Now, Mr. Duffer's business, is that Napa? Is that-
No, he does not own Napa. He owns, Travis, you can answer this better than I.
I'm Travis Phoenix. I live at 4104 East 9th Street. I'm representing Bill Duffer. His car lot is Tri-State Auto Sales.
And where's that located in relationship to this?
Well, he's got an overall plan. He's actually going to move the location of the car lot also, but the first step was building a shop that will service the vehicles before they go on his lot, but his lot is currently on the state line at 18th.
South Church's Chicken.
Yes, up,
Just several blocks up from?
yeah, several blocks up. Well, actually, that's not where his car lot's at, Jamie. It's up there next, on the corner of 18th and State Line is currently where the car lot is at.
So when this is built, there's going to be several empty lots left, right?
So it's all going to be fenced in, so any cars that are serviced or anything will be kept behind the opaque fence.
Is he going to pave all of it?
It will not be paved. The front, where the parking is out in front of the building, will be paved, but inside the opaque fence will be crushed rock or something, I imagine.
Yeah, I'm seeing 5 lots there.
Correct.
Does Mr. Duffer own all those?
He owns all 5 of those, correct?
Okay. So this planned unit development, does it involve all 5 lots?
Yes, it would be, because they're all one parcel.
Okay. Are they, how many lots are going to be fenced off?
According to the site plan, all 5.
That will be right now, when this is constructed, right?
I believe it shows the fence starts right here, and runs here up, and then comes back down the other side of the road. So this front lot here won't be fenced in. This is your driveway coming in.
That's how you'll access it.
Okay, the opposition at the Planning and Zoning Commission, there was some opposition, was there not?
At the Planning and Zoning Commission, Ms. Bursey were the only ones.
Right.
Ms. Thornton did call me and opposed.
And was their opposition pretty much what was voiced earlier?
Was it a unanimous vote from Planning and Zoning?
Yes.
It was.
Well, yeah, we had
There
3
was 3 absences.
Unanimous of the 4 that were there.
So this was originally going to be C3, which was commercial.
Correct.
And there were concerns with that, but, it being able to be anything commercial in the future. So you guys have come back, done the plan unit development. So that means that,
And we turned the building 90 degrees. Initially, it was going to face, what is that, Laurel Street? and we've turned it 90 degrees, so the entrance to it is going to be off 8th Street now.
And the entrance was going to be on Laurel as well,
Correct,
right? So y'all
correct.
moved the entrance
We've made two
to 8th
large
Street.
adjustments there to try to accommodate the neighborhood.
Our planned unit development, these 3 lots that are undeveloped right now, they have to come back now to the city, to planning and zoning, to do anything with these other 3 lots. Is
We've
that-
already done that.
Yes, if they decide they want to build anything other than what they told us they're going to build, is one building with the paved driveway. If they decide they're doing anything else on those 4 lots, they have to come back to us.
Right.
Land unit developments are approved as they're submitted, and any changes have to go back through the whole process again.
So right now, there's nothing on those 3 lots, so they have to come back and get permission from the planning to do anything different.
Where did the concern for C3 come from to change it to PUD? Did that come from Ms. Versio, or was that by the planning and zoning?
I think it was a little of everybody. C3, like I said, it's our most liberal commercial zone. It allows for a lot of things like salvage yards, junkyards, pretty much anything is allowed in C3. And it's, planning commission has to look at land use. So when we rezone something, we have to look at not only what they tell us they plan to do with it, but what potentially could be done with it in the future. And we have to take that into consideration. And in a C3, it's always somewhat worrisome because it is such a wide list of uses. But the PUD limits it down to exactly what they tell us they're going to do.
C3 makes it harder to hold accountable.
Yes.
You said that he had plans in the future, this was step 1, to move his...
That's just for this lot. He's talking about moving his business to another lot in town.
So he has no intention of moving his car lot?
No,
to
his
this
car lot will
location?
not be there. It's strictly a repair shop. So when he buys vehicles, they'll come here, be serviced before they're put on his lot for sale.
Are you open to the public, or will he be only open
No.
to customers that he sells his cars to?
It's strictly for his business only. It's not open to the public. But I do want to mention that I went to the Arkansas Department of Finance Administration's website today and ran a sales tax calculator. I got some numbers from Mr. Duffer, and he said the average sale price of a vehicle was about $12,000, and he's currently moving about 40 vehicles a month. And the average sales tax on a $12,000 vehicle is $1,063.75 per vehicle, times 40 vehicles a month. You're talking about $42,500 a month in sales tax. So this is a pretty substantial business for the city of Texarkana as far as sales tax. And we're hoping that by him building a facility where he can repair vehicles and stuff faster and get more vehicles on the lot and actually move more vehicles. So this is a plan to actually improve his business.
He's not currently doing that now?
He is currently doing 40. He's hoping to go above that. Yeah.
Granted, that comes from his business, his of selling cars.
Tri-State Auto.
Those
And this-
numbers-
and
those
this
numbers
isn't-
are not a prediction of what for the garage.
We haven't forecasted any extra ones with the garage.
Okay.
We're just saying he's doing that now, and he's trying to grow the business.
Any other questions? Any other questions?
I was
Yes,
gonna try to find out and ask him what make him think that the city get money from sales tax. How did you base that on?
I went to the Arkansas Department of Finance Administration's website and used their calculator to determine how much the average sales tax on a $12,000 vehicle would be.
I'm asking what make you think the money come to the city?
Well, there's a line item right here, it says city tax
Oh.
for Texarkana, Arkansas. So that's the portion the city would get.
any other questions?
I have a couple other things I'd like to hand to the board if I can.
Thank you, Travis.
As y'all know, Ms. Bursey has been, her and her husband been the loudest opponents to this. And I printed off a copy from Act Data Scout of their property. And you can see that they own 823 Laurel, but their address is actually 3720 County. They actually don't even live on this block. But if you turn to the fourth page here, you'll see back at 11/08, they had a fire in their house, and the city sent them a letter basically telling them bring it up to code and tag their property. And on the next page, you'll see a notice there, November 21st, '08, which is where they're telling them pursuant to the city ordinance, bring your house up to code. Next page, 5/4 of 12, yet another letter from the city telling them bring your house up to code. 5/4/24 is another letter, and I believe that's where they actually had a meeting about her house. Next page, 6/8 of 12 is a copy of a certified letter that they sent to the Burseys, telling them that you need to demolish your house. And if you go to the last 2 pages, you'll see a picture of their house. And this is the condition it's in. One of her biggest arguments at the planning and zoning was that this metal building was going to be an eyesore to the neighborhood. Well, I'd like to tell you that if she was really concerned about aesthetics, she would fix her own problem. I mean, this is totally disgraceful. There has not been any economic development on this street in probably, I'm guessing, 5 or 6 decades. And none of the houses on that street have had any kind of substantial improvements in at least 20 or 30 years, which is 2 or 3 decades. But if you turn to the very last picture, you'll notice the side of the house, of course, doesn't even have a power meter to it. All the windows are boarded up. The roof is falling in. I mean, this a picture of, it's not totally untypical for that street. There's numerous houses. Hers is not the only one that is in horrible disrepair. And at the planning and zoning meeting, they asked Mr. Bursey how many people were actually inhabiting houses on that street. And if I remember right, I think he said 2, and there used to be 3, but the lady that lived in the 3rd house died 3 or 4 months ago. So anyways, my argument here is that it is a very appropriate use of a zoning change, just because there's been no economic development, and we have a chance to build something new and help a business grow.
Thank you.
Hey, Roger? Roger, I've got a question for you. I know it was brought up that they said their house was tagged in retaliation, but right here, did this start in 2008?
The house was actually condemned in 2012,
Uh-huh.
so it is condemned. So there's, the only recourse is to take it down.
So 2012, so it's been 13 years.
13 years.
Thank you, sir.
Any other questions? If not, I would instruct the city attorney to read the ordinance in its first form, in its first reading in title form. Well, if the ordinance gets to the 3rd reading tonight, you can speak.
An ordinance amending ordinance number K-286 is amended for declaring an emergency and for other purposes.
So the ordinance has been read on its first reading. What would be the desire to have it read on its second reading tonight?
Second reading, abbreviated form.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to have the ordinance read on its second reading. Is there any other discussion? Would you call the roll?
Roberts?
Yes.
Harris?
Yes.
Hollibush?
Yes.
Jewell?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
An ordinance amending ordinance number K-286 is amended for declaring an emergency and for other purposes.
The ordinance has been read on its second reading. What would be the desire to have it read on its third and final reading tonight?
3rd reading, abbreviated form.
Second.
Shall have a motion and a second to have the ordinance read on its third and final reading. Any other discussion? Could you call the roll?
Roberts?
Yes.
Harris?
Yes.
Hollibush?
Yes.
Jewell?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
An ordinance amending ordinance number K-286 is amended for declaring an emergency and for other purposes.
The ordinance has been read on its third and final reading. What would be the desire of the board to adopt?
Motion to adopt.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second to adopt. Prior to the board voting to adopt this particular ordinance, is there anyone here wishing to speak for or against? Ms. Bursey?
Could I get a clarification on the 2-acre? What was his explanation?
Yes, ma'am. In 2004, the board passed ordinance L-180, an ordinance amending Chapter 28, Article 3, Section 28-24B2, Texas County, Arkansas Code of Ordinances by reducing the minimum size of plant unit development zoning district from 2 acres to 0.25 acres. And it is on our website in the ordinances. In one section, it shows that quarter acre. In the next section, it shows 2 acres. It looks like that 2 acres is just a mistake left in there from the past. Doesn't look like that got rolled over to a quarter of an acre. But that was changed to a quarter of an acre in 2004.
So this passed and approved on October the 7th, 2024?
I'm sorry, ma'am, I'm not sure which one you're looking at.
October the 7th, 2024.
L-286? Is that what?
October the 7th, 2024, 2 acres. That's just a couple months.
Do we have access to the minutes right now?
And in reference
Ms.
to
Ms. Versio, what you're allowing us to read right here, where did you find this? What are we looking at?
on
Where?
the city side,
Okay.
Can you tell me that ordinance, because I'm not finding it under
L-180.
L-180, okay.
but that's what I'm confused by, because this is just
2024.
October the 7th, 2024. So he's saying that ordinance change for a quarter acre was in 2000 and what? 2004. This is 24.
That's the master.
Ms. Versio, while they're looking, do you mind if I read
Oh,
what
I'm
you
sorry,
have?
yes.
It's the L286.
Yeah, 180.
Look up 23-2024.
Yeah, minimum size of PUD.
The L-180 is,
It's,
it's section 2824, but this was done years ago. I mean, it's signed by Horace Ship in 2004.
23-2024. It's 2 acres. Yep.
23-2024 increased the PUD minimum from 0.25 acres to 2 acres.
Back to what it originally was.
It increased the minimum or the,
Jamie, are you familiar with that?
Minimum.
I don't have a recollection of that,
if you want to see your pen.
And besides the 2 acre, back then when the fire happened, and the house was now inhabitable, I was not in a position to restore it, but now I am. As long as I also said, the other residents plan on improving the community. So that does not change the fact that this area is, and Mrs. Lee was stating that it's not in the downtown core, you were saying. It's not in the gateway. It's not that in the gateway. Well, that, it's in the gateway. So still, you are saying you are going against the plan that you made. You are voting against something you instituted. You'd rather see car lots and garages than you would residential housing. Then you'd rather see people. You're counting on saying money, and I understand money is important, but I think people is more important, and neighborhoods, and we need housing. And we need housing. We got plenty of garages and car lots.
I understand.
All right, thank you.
I'm going to have to suggest that we defer to the city attorney, because if we have a 2 acre minimum in an updated ordinance that we were not aware of, then this PUD was filed under false pretenses of, I'm assuming, Jamie, he could file for a variance through the planning commission that don't meet the 2 acres. If the 2 acres is an ordinance, which you're telling me it is, correct?
It is.
It was changed back, even though it was changed in 2004, evidently it was changed back in October, that if the 2 acre minimum is required, this does not qualify, correct?
Yes.
What's the acreage?
It is slightly-
Combined
This,
Right at 3/4.
for all 5 lots?
Going back to this ordinance, because it references L-180, which was the ordinance that took it from 2 to .25.
Correct.
And now,
And,
does it
and
repeal
we-
that, or does it go back to what it was before?
well,
There's a typo somewhere, right?
well, in 2004, they did it, well, I'm sorry, I believe in 2004, they did it because it had conflicting language. The previous ordinance, whichever one that was, had conflicting language. And I believe from my notes of the agenda, the memo to the Planning Commission stated that it was still in conflict, but primarily, 1/4 of an acre is not proven to be a practical size in practice for the purpose of which planned unit developments serve.
Correct.
And so they increased it to a minimum of 2 acres. So this would be,
Null and void.
well, yeah.
If it's passed
It would
tonight, you
violate
can't
the
operate with less than 2 acres. Director Harris?
I got, when was this last time this came up? Last year?
October 7th
October.
last year.
So October. Okay, I guess they met in the 90 days, before you can bring
Oh, you're talking about the changing of the 2 acre requirement or the request from
the
Duffy?
request.
The request was here a month ago,
Yeah.
2 meetings ago.
So I was thinking that I thought it was something that we vote on. I thought we couldn't vote on something again till after 100.
This is a new ordinance. This is going
Because
from
it
a
changed.
C3 to
So
a
they just put a
PUD.
different word in so we can.
Well, they changed the whole intent of the ordinance. The whole intent of the ordinance was to go from C3 to a planned use development.
But now you can't even do, but what's stopping somebody from trying to change this just to benefit them in the future? So why?
To change.
Well, to change from the 2 back to the 4, just, I
It would all be voted on by this board. There's no preventing
Well,
from doing it.
no, I'm not getting at that. I wouldn't vote for it anyway, because, you came up here twice and they looked, well, I said they found out something on a good point why we couldn't even fool with this in the first place. So technically, this shouldn't even be an issue before us.
The technical reason is that it should not be before us in this present form. And the real question for the city attorney is to how to get rid of it, since it's at a motion to adopt.
Well, Tyler, you said, this was
I
changed,
think you voted down.
exactly
Let it
when it
die.
was changed.
October
Back
7th
with a new plan.
of this last year. So I've got the packet here from
Okay, with
that
no
meeting.
emergency clause or anything, so it went into effect within 30 days after, correct?
Correct. Yeah, this looks like one of the items that Jamie was bringing before y'all, trying to clean up a lot of our language in the ordinance. Remember, she had several there, kind of back to back, and this is one of them. It shows here in the area that I was describing in the 2004 ordinance, where it shows 1/4 of an acre, and then in the next section, it shows 2 acres. You're scratching that 1/4 of an acre and making it 2 acres. So it is setting the minimum size of PUD to 2
Technically
acres.
did just the opposite of what the intent was.
I think we had a discussion that the quarter acre was just too small,
Yes, that's what,
and we increased it to 2 acres because the quarter acre was too small.
Is there
I think we had that discussion.
My suggestion would be is, I'm not going to vote to adopt it, but my suggestion would be to deny the adoption.
Yeah, there's
is
a
to
vote first
to
and a second,
not
so
to
you have to
adopt.
vote.
And then we would have to consider under its current, under another format at a later date. However, they have to work with have to go back to the planning commission and through the planning department and figure out.
Well, that's really our only choice, is to clean things up, to vote it down.
So there's a motion and a second on the floor to adopt Anyone else wish to speak for or against? Hearing and seeing none, could you call the roll?
Roberts,
I'll abstain.
Harris,
No.
Hollowbush,
Abstain.
Jewell,
No.
Smith,
No.
Brown,
No. Does not pass. All right, moving on. Board commentaries. Anyone wish to address the board tonight?
Mayor,
Yes.
the ice storm we had, is there anything we can do, put any kind of pressure on SWEPCO? I feel the answer is probably no, but
I've talked to Lisa, who's pretty new with SWEPCO. She took Jennifer Harlan's place, and she's looking into that. I know a lot of what they spend goes through the Public Facilities Board, which is governed by the state. So there are some recourse. There's a higher power to appeal to because they release the funding for line clearing, as I understand it.
I mean, that was no more than a hiccup. And here we are, the whole city, both cities was almost down for, I mean, I was down for 2.5 days. And almost everybody else was down for some length of time. I mean, that was an embarrassment and certainly an inconvenience for
Well,
the
I know
city.
Ward
So,
4, it's constant over in Ward 4. I mean, if the wind blows to the left or the right, power's out. I mean, and I can tell you, on behalf of, I had 368 citizens that we documented, and this was an ongoing issue, and in a week's time, the power went out 52 times. In a week's time. I mean, that's on, off, and I filed a Public Service Commission complaint in 2022, and 3 months later, everything that was serviced by SWEPCO in Ward 1 was trimmed off the lines. So, yeah, I mean, you have, there are different, you can't take no for an answer when it comes to take care of your citizens.
I think there's grants available for line insulation too.
Well, that's their responsibility, and to keep the lines clear.
I mean,
If it's in a utility easement.
maybe all we can do is gripe, but we need to gripe to SWEPCO.
Any other board commentary? If not, the board at this time will have to adjourn into executive session and excuse all guests for a couple of, one is an appointment to our board of directors, and the other is to discuss a removal on the Advertising, Promotion, and Historic District Commission.